Hi, welcome to the Arcade Era Power Hour. We're talking about Pauline. Let's see, according to my original notes, in the exciting lead up to the release of Super Mario Odyssey. Okay, it's been a while. Anyway, we meant to do this episode ages ago, but better late than never, and we have more material than ever because we've actually discovered a lot of cool shit since the lead up to Mario Odyssey. So,
We sure have.
Yeah.
And there's been updates since Mario Odyssey, of course.
Yeah.
And speaking of updates,
Yes.
well, have we introduced ourselves? My name is Milo.
And my name is Gibbon.
And
we
represent the site dkgoda.com.
We sure do. You can find us there. There should be links to Twitters and YouTubes and whatnot. But I am Gibbon on Twitter and YouTube.
And I'm generally Milo Scat on things.
Okay.
But yeah, we do have some news and follow-up since the last episode, which was the Western Comics episode.
Yeah.
There was a brief thing that I remembered. We talked about arcade. It was in the news episode, which was our relaunch episode. We talked about all the references to the arcade era in Smash Bros. Ultimate, but I realized we forgot something because I was playing with my brother, and Game & Watch now, in this iteration of the game, changes forms during his moveset.
Oh yeah. And among those is Stanley from the moves that were inspired by Stanley's Game & Watch games.
Greenhouse, yeah.
Greenhouse.
So Game & Watch's jab was always the puffer spray thing that he pulls out. But this time he actually transforms his design into a copy of what Stanley looked like in Greenhouse.
Which makes me kind of want a Mr. Game & Watch gallery where all the moves are sourced from the Game & Watch gallery modern versions.
Oh, the modern versions. Then it'd just be Mario all the time.
Not just Mario all the time. Like for the puffer,
that's
he
true.
could morph into Donkey Kong or something.
Yeah. And Peach was the chef in the modern remake. That was a rare example of Peach being playable.
Well...
So
the
that was
puffer,
it, I guess.
The puffer is a bit of an interesting case because you've got Greenhouse, but you also have the Game & Watch Donkey Kong 3.
That's true.
So
With Stanley versus DK.
With Stanley versus
and they both
DK.
had the puffers, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
So the other item of news and follow-up was the new content in Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
So
they released
recently, yeah.
They are still putting out Labo, surprisingly. And this latest set of Labo is a bunch of VR kits, and there's some cool stuff in there. There's like an elephant trunk and like a foot pedal thing and like an eagle, and it's all very interactive and fun. But among those is just kind of a generic goggle set that you can use in conjunction with some new VR modes in Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey.
Those are the only things they've added support for so far.
Okay, yeah. I haven't had a chance to check this out, actually, so I hope you have some more information. Oh, okay.
So what I do know is for Breath of the Wild, you can play the entire game in VR mode, but
which is
apparently
insane.
People have reported this makes them feel quite sick.
I bet.
But for Mario Odyssey, they created a new set of VR-specific challenges just for this mode. So there's new content for the game that is playable in VR mode, and it's more tailored for not making you sick. So I think it's better in that regard.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the things that they added was set in New Donk City, and Pauline is in it. So that's just
excellent.
something new that she is in.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
Ta-da.
Cool.
But now, speaking of that, let's get into the episode about Pauline.
Get into it. Today's episode is about Pauline, as I mentioned before. This is a long time coming, and we're just kind of gonna hand-wavingly go over the whole thing, starting from before Donkey Kong even came out.
What?
So there's two things to go over here, and I think we actually have them in. I think we should go over them in the opposite order. We have them here in the notes, and it's that
okay.
Donkey Kong started out as a Popeye arcade game.
Yeah, that was the original idea before they put
and
their original characters into it.
I don't know if they were in the process of getting the license and it just didn't pan out, or they just started making a Popeye game, and it turned out they couldn't get the license. Like they were like, "Oh, we should make a Popeye game. It's better to ask for forgiveness than seek permission," sort of. So obviously, in that respect, you had the I'm assuming Popeye, Bluto, and Olive Oil.
Yeah, that is the
as
classic trilogy as in later Popeye materials. Bluto wasn't always the antagonist in the original comics conceptions, but that's what it became.
Yeah, he was a regular by the time these games were a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when however that panned out fell through, it got converted to Mario, Donkey Kong, and Pauline, our iconic trio of today. But
and they
and
do
those,
sort of mirror those archetypes.
yeah. And then the conversions come from a number of different places. We've all heard the story about Mario's design and how he has a hat because they didn't want to figure out how to sprite out hair in 8 bits, and same with the mustache. That way they wouldn't have to worry about a face, sort of thing. And Mario, the name coming from like was it the warehouse manager?
Yeah,
something?
Supposedly Mario Segale.
Yeah. And then like Donkey
Or
Kong,
the landlord,
just
actually.
sort of general King Kong zeitgeist still going on.
Yes.
And then Pauline, there's a bit of an urban legend that she was named after. Was it the landlord's wife or something?
Yeah, so the landlord was the Mario guy. There's a story about the warehouse manager, Don James, and his wife, Polly, and that being the basis for the name.
But more likely...
Yeah, that tale was printed in... what was the name of the book? I didn't write it down, but anyway, it's a book about the video game history that's commonly cited, but contains possibly factual errors. I don't know.
Is that the same book that's sourced for the quote that I still can't verify anywhere of Mario was abusing Donkey Kong?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, more likely, or at least in tandem, influence was the popular, very, very popular and famous old black and white film serial, The Perils of Pauline. And while that is from 1914, it was still very much in public consciousness. There were 2 rather high-profile film remakes. It was the originator of sort of the serialized damsel in distress thing. It's cited as the influence for like the Dick Dastardly stuff and several cartoons. I've just got a giant list here of stuff that was inspired by it. Like, immediately following Perils of Pauline was The Exploits of Elaine by the same company and starring the same woman and having the same cast. I don't know why they changed the name.
That's weird.
The Perils thing spawned an entire franchise on itself from Universal. There's Perils of the Secret Service, Perils of the Wild, Perils of the Yukon. Dudley Do-Right cites Perils of Pauline as an inspiration. The 1970s cartoon, The Perils of Penelope Pitstop, is a
from Wacky Races.
A comedic pastiche of Perils of Pauline. It wasn't the originator of this format. There was a previous thing called, what was it? Lordy. It was The Adventures of Caitlin with a TH. The Adventures of Caitlin, which was the second film serial ever and is cited historically as the originator of the cliffhanger.
Wow.
And Perils of Pauline basically just immediately followed it because Adventures of Caitlin was 1913, and then Perils of Pauline was very early 1914. So,
Yeah,
and
so
Pauline was
if you
played
ever
by
think
Pearl
of
White, and this basically put her on the map, and she had a magnificent film career afterwards. So,
yeah, and the cultural impact of this Perils of Pauline series can't be understated. If you ever think about a woman being tied to train tracks by a mustachioed guy,
yeah.
or tied to a log on a buzzsaw thing, something like that.
Yeah, and the basic setup of Perils of Pauline is you have this
She's an heiress.
she's a wealthy heiress, and her
Yeah.
her wealthy guardian, Mr. Marvin, has just passed away and has left his entire inheritance to her, but in the care of his secretary, who's supposed to look after her until the time of her marriage. Yes, she is a grown woman, but also this was made in 1914. Pauline wants to wait before marrying because she has dreamed of going off and having adventures around the world. Mr. Corner, the secretary, wants all the money to himself and is more than happy to help Pauline just die while out on her adventures.
Is he going to marry her first or what?
Oh, no. He never tries to marry her. He just tries to have her conveniently disappear while she's away having these adventures. So each episode is her off on another adventure somewhere. She's an adventurer. She goes out, she goes through like ancient ruins and the jungles and yada yada yada. There's even an episode where she gets captured by a giant gorilla. So yeah, I know, right?
But if she's the archetypal damsel in distress, then who is rescuing her?
Oh, the comedy element is her stumbling out of things, much to Mr. Corner's chagrin. It's a very slapsticky thing. Is him trying to engineer her demise and her just sort of obliviously getting through it. Think Mr. Magoo.
Mr. Magoo? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you mention things like that came later, like Dudley Do-Right, that's a situation where the male character is very much in this hero role who always has to rescue a woman from the danger. But this case seems pretty different to that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, most of this is lost. There are still a couple famous bits and full episodes. One of the episodes lost, unfortunately, is the origin of the tied to the train tracks thing. Yeah, just among other stuff. But yeah, so that's what put that archetype under the name Pauline on the map.
Yeah,
basically.
And it seems likely that that might have had an influence on naming this character who otherwise was known as Lady up till that point.
Yeah.
But as far as the trio of characters, yeah, that Popeye thing seems pretty clear given the development history. Nintendo did later get the Popeye license. They made a Game & Watch game and an educational NES game in the same series.
The
as
educational
Donkey
NES game
Kong's.
actually follows up an arcade game and its NES adaptation.
Right.
And I maintain that arcade game, had they not had the Popeye license, would have made a wonderful Donkey Kong sequel in and of itself. So,
but yeah, they made a version of the NES game that had an educational bent that was in the same series as Donkey Kong Jr. Math. So there's a connection that comes in
canceled
quite early.
Donkey Kong's Fun with Music.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but I guess we'll get to that in a minute.
We
Should
will
we
get to
start
that in
with
a minute. Yeah, so
Pauline's
with all
origins?
that in mind, we get to Donkey Kong, 1981, arcade, ran the United States out of quarters, kind of put Nintendo on the map. Yeah. I mean, we've talked at length. Everyone has talked at length. Was there anything in particular we wanted to go over for that?
Programmed by Kagami Tsuchinki. It was a reuse of boards and cabinets from Star Laser or whatever that game was called, etc., etc. The point is,
basically,
by the time we get to Donkey Kong, like we said, the names were kind of in flux at this point. The initial release had Mario being named Jumpman. Pauline didn't have a name; she was just called Lady.
Actually, was he named Jumpman in the initial release, or was he
I
still Osan until later arcade cab art?
I couldn't tell you the
Okay.
very specifics. I'm
Mario went
speaking
through a number of
generally.
names.
He
went
did, yeah.
through-
Mr. Video.
He was Osan, he was Mr. Video, he was Jumpman originally, and
Hmm.
then very early on, he got named Mario, and we actually have some development. Speaking of people getting names, later the same year, as part of their Game and Watch handheld line, they released an adaptation of Donkey Kong that you could play on the go. And in this one, the characters very clearly named Mario and Pauline. But in an early flyer, for I don't know if this ever actually went out to people or if this was just a demo print,
Hmm.
but it says, "Help! Donkey Kong, the famous monster ape, holds lovely Louise prisoner on a building site. Can Mario bring down the mighty Kong?" So she was named Louise at some point.
Yeah, there's an element where her name was in flux. I've also seen references to her being called Paula in some materials rather than Pauline.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of hand wavy.
Yeah. But especially in Japan, the lady name seems to have stuck.
Yeah, well, kind of. They use lady to refer to her in the context of her appearance in the early 80s stuff, and use Pauline to refer to her in all of her post 1994 appearances.
And you can see this happening in things like even the recent Smash Ultimate, the spirit where it's the cabinet art from Donkey Kong with DK holding Pauline. It calls it DK and Lady. So it seems whenever you see her, as she appeared originally blonde, Nintendo sometimes goes with calling that iteration of the character Lady.
Yeah.
And it's really quite interesting to see this. There's a book called The Perfect Edition Great Mario Character Encyclopedia. That's the translation of the name.
Is
This is
that
a
the
book
new
released
one
in
or
Japan.
the old one? Oh, that's the old one. Okay.
That's the old one, yeah. And it's got like a history of the Mario series at that point, which I think was still in the SNES era, but by that point Mario had a long history either way. But yeah, there's a page that's been scanned from that has two entries, one for Lady, one for Pauline. They have different like character traits listed for each one.
Yeah.
Interestingly, they both are cited as coming from New York, but it describes Lady as docile or like quiet, and as being Mario's first girlfriend, so that relationship is established concretely there. And it describes Pauline, on the other hand, as being lively and modern and sort of
I get it.
you know,
Meta
active.
jokes. Yeah. But it should be noted that she was called Pauline in pretty much everything. She'd shown up
Sure.
in a couple other games at this point. She was in the... I guess it's sort of the only thing Nintendo's pinball on arcade and NES is known for these days. But this really was like a hidden Easter egg. It had a little sort of very simple like Arcanoid or Breakout type minigame that you could activate by doing a specific sequence of events where you're controlling Mario, who's holding a paddle above his head, moving back and forth to bounce the pinball and break some blocks that are trapping Pauline up above in the top thing. And then when she falls down, you have to further catch her with the paddle, or she'll like land on her butt, basically. And it's just a little mini game. But they were putting Mario and Pauline in things. And there was also the various coloring and activity books where they're clearly referring to them by name. And there was the Saturday Supercade, and
yeah, we
Family
covered
Basic,
the coloring books on last episode.
Yeah.
But they have the whole backstory for the character, and I'll note at this point that we were talking about the perils of Pauline before. None of the elements of her backstory are ever attributed to Pauline from Donkey Kong. Um, she has a different kind of history in the series.
Yeah, Pauline's
But
always sort of been, um, I I don't know how to phrase it. She's been a social class above Mario, pretty much in every.
yeah,
Uh,
okay, yeah,
well, Mario's very blue collar worker, and she is, someone who goes and performs at nightclubs or like owns a circus or
yeah.
what have
She's
you.
always been depicted as sort of glamorous and um, well maintained. You know, she takes care of herself very well, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, although I don't,
We'll get to
yeah.
all the
Saturday,
depictions later.
Saturday Supercade wasn't quite that, but Saturday Supercade setup for Mario and Pauline was basically Scooby Doo. So
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that she has such a prominent role in that show, but because the arcade game being so basic, it's got basically the trinity of characters, and that's it.
help. Yeah,
She has a primary role on the protagonist side. Although even Donkey Kong in that show isn't a villain, he's just
he's the big bumbling Hulk, and she's the straight man, while Mario is the kind of the serious blockhead who's like, "Oh, Donkey Kong, he's up to no good." Pauline's like, "Oh
yeah,
no, he just needs some love and care."
yeah, she has more sympathy.
And she
Do
puts
you,
up with Mario's shit, and he puts up with Donkey Kong's shit, and just
yeah,
they
just
make
like
a great trio.
they do, yeah. I was going to ask you, do you know in the context of that show what relationship she has to Mario? Is she his employee at the zoo?
I should know this, but I don't.
Well, they both work for the zoo equally, like they're colleagues. I'm not really sure.
I know the basic
whole role...
credits scenario setup is Donkey Kong has
Mm.
escaped from the zoo. Mario and Pauline are after him.
Yeah, to catch him and bring him back.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know how official their capacity is in that function now that you mention it.
Yeah, and it's a very episodic show. I don't think it really took time to sit down and say, these are all the character backgrounds and histories. And no, every episode was, let's catch DK. Oh no, he got away. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a fun show.
Yeah, it's fun. I mentioned Family Basic briefly. We've talked about that a little bit before on previous episodes.
Surely we have.
I think I actually mentioned it in the first episode when I was doing news roundups. Because I just discovered it. It was a very, very early here's a game engine and some assets and some basic tools. Make something. And
yeah,
the
and they
neat
give you a
thing
keyboard
about
and you
it,
have to learn code and
yeah. The neat thing
make a
about
game
it
from scratch.
is that it comes with a full set. Not that that was very much. A full set of Pauline sprites, with her doing all the same actions that Mario can do in the sprite set they provide for him. So like ladder climbing and jumping and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's an official set of sprites for like 8-bit Pauline doing everything Mario can do.
Along with sprites for the enemies from Donkey Kong and I think Donkey Kong Jr. as well.
There's also an
sets.
enemy from Ice Climber and some other random sprites from other games of the era.
Yeah, there's some spaceships and things like that.
I think there's like a race car.
But
yeah.
It's pretty cool. But
annoyingly, none of the hacks that
accessible.
put Pauline in things ever use this sprite set.
That's true, they don't. And we mentioned before Ongaku Asobi, which means fun with music or playing music, which was supposed to be a title in the educational NES series along with DK Junior Math and Popeye's English.
Likely to use a canned keyboard accessory for the NES.
Oh. Yeah, it was never released, so we don't know too much about it, but we have a few screenshots. And from those, we can see that Pauline is there. It's got DK playing a cello or a double bass. Junior is on the drums. Mario is on a piano. Is that right?
Something like that.
from memory.
Yeah.
But Pauline is there with the microphone in the singing role, as she would be in various adaptations and things. She was a singer in the coloring book, and we see her doing that later in Odyssey too. So
Well, I should mention there is an official like piano keyboard attachment for the NES. It's just not made by Nintendo. It's made by some other company, and they had like a
Okay.
piano teaching program to go with it. And I don't know if this game was supposed to utilize that, or if Nintendo was going to make their own, or whatever the case may be. They canceled the game. So
yeah, it's too bad. But she did have one other game appearance, Asterisk. Why don't you tell us about that?
yes, there was a game called Golf on the NES. It was one of those games where it is depicted as Mario on the cover of the game, and it sort of looks like it actually sort of looks like Captain Lou.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Mario in the game, sort of stockier Italian type guy doing the golfing. This got a port as part of the Versus arcade series into Versus Golf or Versus Stroke and Match Golf in some cases.
Yeah. Some regions, yeah.
And then, very oddly, Versus Stroke and Match Golf in the arcades got a ladies version, which is also known as Ladies Golf. And the flyer for the Versus arcade system depicts Mario in all the roles for the various Versus games, except Ladies Golf, which has a woman there, and she's got like the same hair color as Pauline and stuff. So it's just sort of an
Blonde. That's what it was
inference.
back then.
Also, it's called Ladies Golf, and they did like to call her Lady, so I'm gonna accept it.
I love that logic, and I very much accept it. I will point out that in the title, Ladies Golf is written as if it's multiple ladies
Yes.
playing golf, not ladies possessive apostrophe golf. But it's close
It should
enough,
also
I
be
think your
noted
point
that
stands.
I don't think this ever came out in English, so that's like an English title.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll accept
So, yeah. Yeah. So,
yeah, that's
asterisk.
Pauline's first playable appearance.
Pauline's
Asterisk.
first playable appearance. Hooray!
Hooray! Okay, so we've got some other promotional material from around the time of Donkey Kong.
Yeah,
at
we're
that
still
time.
in like 1981, 1982. Actually,
Yeah,
Ladies Golf and Family Basic were from 85 and was actually
Right.
her final appearances. But there was some other stuff before then
Yeah.
in non-video game space. So.
Yeah, so I would give video games more prominence. But anyway, we talked about last week the comics for the arcade era. There was in Blip magazine, which was a Marvel video game magazine that only lasted a few issues. The first issue had a Donkey Kong comic, and Pauline's in that. It's not a consistent backstory with the rest of them, of course, but nothing was consistent back in those days.
Yeah.
It seems to be set after the game and after Mario has gained prominence, but there's another damsel featured in the comic, and Mario says he doesn't know who she is, but he's going to rescue her anyway.
Yeah.
So take from that what you will. I don't know.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and then the other pretty interesting piece of promotional merchandise was the Donkey Kong LP, the vinyl record,
Man,
which is put out by
want a
Kid Stuff
copy of
in
this.
1983.
I so want a copy of this. It's surreal, the sort of stuff they put out.
Yeah, it is. And it's a fun bit of merchandise. It's got the basic cabinet art pasted on the front, so it's not any new artwork. But the contents within are
it's just a
very
bunch of
strange and
sort
interesting.
of... Are these original kids songs? Were these written for this LP?
Well, they're all credited to the trio of Dana Walden, L. Reader, and R. Jones.
Okay.
And produced by D. Walden and...
What I'm getting at is they're
what was
not
the other name?
covers.
No,
So,
they're original songs. Absolutely.
and it's just Mario and Pauline singing about like life in New York.
Yeah, written and produced by Pat McBride and Dana Walden. All tracks performed by D. Walden, L. Reader, and R. Jones. So this is, I guess, the first voice of Pauline one of those people. We're not sure which one. But it's worth noting that in the context of the record, the songs aren't being sung by Pauline. She only has a line here and there. And I think it's supposed to be other people singing Mario Delivers Another Man and Woman. I'm not sure who. But Mario and Pauline only sort of pop up from time to time, and the rest of it is sung by sort of onlookers who are watching things unfold.
Yeah,
And
it's sort of a narrative.
yeah.
The tracks
goes
are
through-
the Donkey Kong theme, No More Zoo for You, The Climber, On Top of the World, Jump Up, oh hey, Mario Delivers, and a reprise of the Donkey Kong theme.
Yes, and you might know the classic line from the Donkey Kong theme. We're talking gorilla, we're not talking Godzilla.
I'm surprised
Donkey
Toho didn't
Kong.
sue them.
Well, I don't even know if this is an officially licensed product by Nintendo.
I mean, it has to be, right?
I don't
It just
know.
has to be. Does this site have zoom-ins on the disc? It does. Oh my god, Nintendo's not mentioned anywhere on this.
Yeah, I looked for that, and
Oh
yeah,
my
it's not there.
god. Yeah, it's surreal is what it is.
It's pretty cool, and like I said before, the adaptations having inconsistent backstories. In this one, Mario runs a pizza place. Pauline is the delivery girl, and
Because
they
why
live
not?
yeah, why not? They live across the street from a construction site, and a circus is in town. And Donkey Kong used to live in a zoo, but then he was sold to the circus, and now he's come back to town, and he wants to go back to the way things were when Mario and Pauline used to visit him in the zoo. So there's all these elements of zoo, circus, and Mario and Pauline being involved that come up again and again, of course, but in a different configuration this time.
Yeah. Man, this is so weird. I want to own it.
So yeah, the face of the whole Mario franchise changed in about 1980. Oh, when was Super Mario Brothers?
I think that was 1985.
Sure. We were saying how Ladies Golf and Family Basic are 85, and those were the last
no, Super Mario Bros.
appearances.
3 was 1983.
Okay. So it still hung on in other ways for a few years, but
Yeah.
things really did change with Super Mario Brothers, bringing in the Mushroom Kingdom,
Yeah.
Bowser, Peach, all that stuff.
Wait, that can't
Although they
be
weren't
right.
known by those names in the West at that time.
No, sorry.
But anyway.
Mario Bros. Was 1983. Super Mario Bros. Was 1985. Yeah.
Yes, got it.
And
So that really is
was-
the cutoff
so
there.
Super Mario Bros.
when
was
everything changed.
September of 1985. Family Basic version 3, which was the one Pauline was in, was February of 1985, with versus Ladies Golf being May of 1985. So
Wow.
yeah. And yeah, it's just kind of a gap since then. Like Super Mario Bros. Comes out in late 1985, and then like you sort of get the licensed Mario Bros. Arcade successors like Return of Mario Bros. And Punch Ball. But then it's
even
just,
then, that's when Donkey Kong and Pauline and all that sort of thing starts to disappear.
yeah, Donkey Kong shows up as sort of like a cameo in stuff like Tetris or F1 Race, or as like the bank teller in NES
Open
Open
Tournament
Golf.
Golf.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then like Junior shows up in Super Mario Kart, but it's not really till 1984 that Donkey Kong comes back as like a thing
94.
that heralds games on his own.
Yeah. But before DK94 relaunched the classic DK stuff, we did have the important cultural landmark of the Super Mario Brothers movie in 1993.
Yes, we did. Which Pauline is technically in, even though she's never named as such in the movie.
No, but even if she, so in the script, or some versions of the script, the character of Daniela, Mario's girlfriend from Brooklyn, is known as Daniela Pauline Verducci.
Yeah.
But even if she didn't have that name in the script, I think it wouldn't be too hard to associate that character with Pauline because of her role in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you have Mario in the Brooklyn context before he's in the Mushroom Kingdom, you are going to bring these elements back, I think. So
Yeah, and that was very clearly the filmmaker's intent. They kind of went out of their way to include references to everything, up to having the evil rival construction boss dude getting turned into an ape at the construction site.
Indeed.
But they had like the construction site stuff, and like Mario and Luigi being like legit plumbers and doing the thing, and Daniela Pauline being Mario's girlfriend, and they had Daisy. They pretty much went out of their way to have every references to everyone except Peach.
Yeah, it's fair enough. The story they told, Peach doesn't really have a place in it, so I'm fine with that.
Yeah, basically.
And it lets Pauline have like a proper role in a real highlight spotlight. Yeah.
There's
it should be
really
should be
nice
noted too.
card in the trading card set that I believe it's Daniela is kidnapped. Yeah,
Yes.
Daniela is kidnapped. That's just a nice profile shot of her in the red dress that you don't really get to, like, she's in it for a lot of the movie, but you don't really get any scenes that just have her fully in profile that aren't focusing on other characters in the shot. So
Yeah, the card game, the collectible card, it's not a game, but just the card series, is a good source of production photos of just just profiles. Yeah.
it should be noted that
emoticons for our
Daniela
Discord.
also has the handbag with her at all times.
Ah, indeed. She doesn't have the hat or the parasol.
No.
But she does have nice puffy sleeves. Anyway, I wanted to note that early in revisions of the script, the aforementioned rival character for Mario Scapelli in Brooklyn, Daniela was supposed to be his sister, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't really come through in the final product, but
No, not
I think
so much.
if you had canon it, you could say maybe she took her mother's maiden name after her brother turned out to be a big jerk or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
She didn't want to
something
be
like that.
associated with the name or something like that. I don't know. I made
dads, maybe. I don't know. She's Spike's
Sure.
sister. I'm gonna go with that.
Sure, yeah. I made a
Spike.
headcanon about like we said Pauline was her middle name in this movie.
Yeah.
But since Pauline has had so many names,
Lordy,
I've put
has she.
together all of them into a super name
This is a mouthful.
where her full proper name would be Lady Daniela Pauline Paula Louise Verducci Mario née Scapelli.
Oh yeah, that's another thing that never really occurred to me. Maybe she's called Lady because it's a title.
Yeah. So she's landed gentry who owns land, and so she's a lady. She does marry Mario in some versions of the script, so she has a hyphenated last name with Verducci Mario.
I'd like to note in the final scene she does have the ring on.
Oh, yes.
I had
Mario
to
put a ring
freeze
on
frame it and advance frame by frame to get a good shot of her hand.
Yes, there was a deleted subplot about Mario being nervous about proposing to her. So.
Which is when her full name would have been revealed.
Yes, all that thing I just said.
Like Mario gets down on one knee and he's like, Daniela Pauline Verducci, will you marry me? Again, I can't do Bob Hoskins' voice.
And Louise.
But yeah, but adding to that, in Mario Odyssey real quick, they do say, like, the Metro, New Donk City is a kingdom. It is the capital of the Metro Kingdom. And they say in interviews that Pauline holds the position of mayor, but it is a democratically elected monarch, similar to Hawaii's classic system that Phantom Menace then ripped off for Naboo.
Sure. Yeah,
I'm
so
not
she's
even
the
joking
ruler
about
of
that.
a
The
kingdom.
story of
Yeah,
Phantom
no.
Menace is actually the
Yeah.
story of Hawaii in space, except the U.S. didn't send Jedi in real life. We just waited for the East India Trading Company to take them over so we could then swoop in and take them over. But anyway.
Wow.
So yeah, Lady Pauline. I dig it.
Yes, I do too.
Headcanon accepted.
Excellent.
And
So
while we're
associated with
talking about the Super Mario Bros. Movie
yes.
and weird side audio accompaniments to things, in the vein of the Donkey Kong LP, there is the audio poster pack for the movie, which is both a poster pack and a fully acted audio play
Yes.
of the movie.
It's just
with
an
new
adaptation of the
actors.
movie with different actors
They're
playing out
not.
the whole plot. Yeah.
They're credited. They're listed out. We don't know who plays who.
Yeah. They're not listed by character, but it's got a list of all the people whose voices are in this on the back of the pack, which you can see a scan of at smbarchive.com.
Yeah, we tried to track down all these names to see if we could pinpoint who's who, and they might as well have just made these names up for all we were able to find out.
No. A lot of them are established voice actors, and I found a lot of them on IMDb, but I couldn't tell you which one of them was Pauline.
Okay,
Was,
redaction.
Daniela,
Milo is
sorry.
way better at looking this shit up than I am. I'm good at deep diving in some areas of the internet. Milo is good at deep diving in other areas of the internet.
Yes, that's why we're a good partnership.
Hell yeah.
So apart from the poster pack, we had the novelization of the movie. She's in that. Her role isn't really expanded much beyond the movie. There are certain scenes that are, but none of them really concern her in particular. And she appears in the sequel comic, which was made with the cooperation of some of the writers of the original film, by Stephen Applebaum and Ryan Haas of the Super Mario Brothers, the movie archive. She pops up in it, but she actually has no lines of dialogue, I noticed when doing a recent look through it.
And she's a Disney princess now, damn it. I demand she show up in Kingdom Hearts.
That's right. Yes, the movie is... The distribution rights are owned by Disney, or the movie is owned by Disney or something. So technically, you are correct.
All of the things original to the movie are owned by Disney.
Yes.
Which technically includes Daniela. So yeah.
She's my favorite Disney princess. No.
I'm gonna find a random background.
I would say
unnamed
Daisy is more than her.
black-haired woman in Kingdom Hearts and just proclaim that that's Daniela, and no one will be able to prove me wrong.
Sure. So,
Yeah.
shall we get to the redesign?
Yeah. So skip
alluded to
forward
it.
about 9 years from.
Oh, what?
So
Yeah.
we last left our landed gentry lady in 1985, playing golf as the rich do. And we rejoin in 1994 with a makeover, dyed hair, or maybe undyed hair, who knows. Actually, you know what? No. Both my dad and my brother started out life blonde, and it just got darker as they aged. So, yeah.
But in 9 years, it can change that much?
Yeah, actually. Like, my brother
okay.
used to be like a platinum blonde, and now he's just kind of a light brown.
Headcanon accepted.
Yeah. But yeah, they updated her look a bit for what is colloquially known as Donkey Kong 94. It's a game. It was released in conjunction with the Super Game Boy, which is a how would you describe that? It's sort of a lock-on
It's a
thing.
peripheral.
It's a
Yeah.
peripheral. It plugs into the cartridge slot of the Super Nintendo, and then it has a cartridge slot of its own that you put a Game Boy cartridge into. That allows you to play the
Yes.
Game Boy game via the Super Nintendo on a television screen, and a lot of
With
games
enhancements.
have enhancements in the form of color palettes and custom border images, and in some cases, like Donkey Kong 94, sound enhancements as well. I actually never play this these days without it in the Super Game Boy, and I forgot that the sound stuff was also an enhancement and wasn't in the original
Yes.
just Game Boy
Pauline
thing.
says, help, help.
Help. And there's some other additional sound effects and stuff
Yes.
too.
Yes.
But yeah, it was basically the launch title for the Super Game Boy. It's in all of the Super Game Boy commercials as sort of the poster child for the system. You have the weird Doc Brown Mario alongside Donkey Kong showing off the new thing in the animated commercial. And just Donkey Kong is leading the pack of all the game characters in like the magazine ads, who are like walking over the black and white turning into color rainbow that the Super Game Boy provides. It's
a beautiful animation.
Yeah, DK94 was basically the launch title for the Super Game Boy in 1994.
And so I assume because it was launched with it that they'd coded those enhancements into the cartridge, because for some of them they coded the enhancements into the Super Game Boy unit to then apply retroactively to games that had previously been released. But after it had been released, they started including them in the cartridge, knowing that it would be possible to enhance them with the Super Game Boy.
Yeah, and there was a Super Game Boy 2, which had some different software under the hood, and also a larger library of built-in games with enhancements and stuff. That didn't previously have enhancements, some extra things. But yeah.
But yeah, the important thing for this game, it was a relaunch for the Donkey Kong brand.
Yeah.
And it brought back Pauline in a big way.
It was in the way that the Donkey Kong Land games were supposed to be like after the fact accompaniments for the main console Donkey Kong Country series. This was basically the pre handheld accompaniment to the Donkey Kong Country series, because it also debuted the DK necktie and sort of the new look, as it were, for the arcade characters.
Yeah, it is a strange halfway step between the older stuff and the radical redesign and changing gameplay that Donkey Kong Country represented.
Well, I'd also like to point out something that's really basically overlooked everywhere, and that's if you actually look at what Cranky Kong is saying in Donkey Kong Country when he's reminiscing about the old days and the graphical capabilities of the game he starred in. He's talking about a Game Boy game. He talks about having like black and white and 8 bits and maybe 2 frames of animation, and so he's talking about DK94. He's not talking about DK81.
No, well said. Yeah.
This was totally meant to be an accompaniment game to Donkey Kong Country, which had been announced and was coming out within the next few months.
And like promotional material for Donkey Kong Country built on it, with things like Cranky Kong being the older Donkey Kong and so on, so forth. So what's different about Pauline in DK94?
So before she was blonde, now she has black or very dark brown hair. Her dress has been restyled a little bit. It's no longer a pink dress. It's now like a ripped, would you say V-neck? But
it's a dress.
yeah. It's
I don't know. Sorry.
It's a slightly different type of dress. I don't know dress terminology.
Her
she actually
being
looks
finalized.
I'd like to note that she actually looks a lot like that original, not sprite sheet, but the sprite concept that they did on paper, where she had dark brown hair and the deep red dress and stuff.
Right. I see what you mean. And before, there, like I've said a few times, there was not much consistency between depictions. Cover artwork for the game on different platforms had radically different art styles, but this is the moment when Pauline's design was standardized, and
she also
from
gets
this point on, she looks like this forever.
She gets her signature yellow gold drop earrings, and the red lipstick,
the eyeshadow,
and the eyeshadow.
It's all there.
Later additions will be the gold words. I've suddenly forgotten what things are called.
Earrings.
No, the thing around her wrist.
Bracelets.
I feel so embarrassed right now. Bracelet, yes. I can face noise good, I swear.
Okay.
She gets the gold bracelet. I can't actually tell if that's here originally because the artwork I pulled up really quickly has her over DK's shoulder and only one of her hands is visible. So Yeah.
There's a thing I want to say, and now I've forgotten how to word.
The worm turns.
You've given me the midnight disease.
Giving you the brainitis.
You looked into my eyes.
Okay, it
like in
doesn't
that
look
Doctor
like
Who
she's got
episode.
the bracelet in some of this other concept
Okay.
artwork. So that came later.
Okay. So the redesign and the reason for it. There's an interesting tidbit in Super Smash Bros. 4 Wii U.
Yes.
The North American version and the European version have different text for the trophy descriptions. So I'm going to read you the North American one. Maybe she wanted to look less like Princess Peach. She changed her look in the Game Boy version. So they had these kind of meta or tongue-in-cheek comments in a lot of these trophy descriptions, but I think it's revealing maybe of the design thought that went into it from the meta perspective, is that bringing her back the way she looked back then, blonde with a pink dress, Princess Peach has kind of taken that and made it her own, so she needed to change to stand out and be her own character.
It's interesting now when you look at the princesses lineup. You've got Peach, who's the traditional blonde in the pink dress. You have Daisy, who's sort of the lighter brown, almost red hair. You have,
and she used to be tan.
Yeah, you have Captain Syrup sometimes, who is straight up red hair. You have Rosalina, who's the more platinum end of the blonde spectrum. And you have Pauline, who is the darker, deeper brunette. So they have represented all of the hair color. Well, all of the standard hair colors.
Not black.
Not black. And I guess there's also Princess Shakora, who's the just deep red instead of sort of the dirty red.
From Wario Land 4. I didn't really think about it before, but when you said that, putting Pauline as part of a princess lineup, I was just thinking before, what do I like about Pauline and how she's different to the rest of the princess archetype? Because if you're a female character in the Mario series, you're often a princess. Yep. And Pauline's a little bit different. But now she kind of is a princess too, so I guess that's out the window.
Well, no, she's a queen.
Even better.
Yeah, she's a ruler.
Yeah, but in terms of her origin, she started as just another person in the human world
who held a wide variety of jobs.
Indeed. We'll get to that later. That's a good summary of all the things she's done. But
so as part of the redesign for classic Donkey Kong accompanying the Donkey Kong Country stuff, sort of in tandem with the Donkey Kong Land games, you had the Game & Watch Gallery games going on, which were compilations of the old Game & Watch titles, including all the old, like, Mario and Donkey Kong Game & Watch titles. And while Donkey Kong Senior in his new look with the tie showed up in all of those, Pauline also shows up in her new look for at least one of them. And
Does
one
she?
featuring well, yes and no. She's in Donkey Kong Game & Watch.
Yes.
All of the quote-unquote modern versions replace her with Peach, since Game & Watch Gallery does this thing where they have the classic version and then they have the modernized version, which is some updated graphics and smoothed out gameplay and some other tweaks and additions. But it also just uses the current Mario roster for the characters.
Yeah, because they replaced Pauline with Peach in the modern remakes. When does Pauline appear in those games in her modern look?
I'm just kind of hand-wavingly saying she was in Donkey Kong.
Sure.
She was there, okay?
Yeah, she was there, but she looked as she did in the original release of the Game & Watch because she was in the classic iterations of the...
basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fun note,
right. Yes.
Game & Watch Donkey Kong was the first appearance of Donkey Kong Jr. before his own game came out. But anyway.
Yes, the alarm clock monkey.
Yes, alarm clock monkey, known as
the manual calls him
Mini Donkey Kong.
Exactly, yes.
Not to be confused with Mini Donkey Kong. But
Indeed. Oh, we'll get to that in a minute too. But
The
yeah,
what
Junior's
is
going to have
that-
his own
what
episode
is that
eventually, I hope.
guidebook I have called? The guidebook for DK94 has like a little notes
The
and
Wonder
trivia
Guide.
section. Yeah, the Wonder
Mm.
Guide has a little notes and trivia
Mm.
section in the back that brings up mini Donkey Kong as the first appearance of Donkey Kong Jr. when talking about the characters.
Excellent. Canon.
Yeah, so
Canon. Mm.
But
So,
um,
yes. So shall we talk about some of the like the adaptations and things that came out after DK94 relaunched this era of the series?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we should. I'll let you handle that. You're more familiar with some of this stuff than I am, just
Sure.
because of your translation work.
Thank you. So, a lot of people might know about Super Mario Kun, which is a comic by. Oh no, I didn't write it down. You look that up. It's a very long running series. It started with an adaptation of Super Mario World, and has continued to the present day, adapting many various Mario games.
And I believe it's actually coming out in English now. Yukio
Really?
Sawada.
Thank you, Yukio Sawada. Yes, that was in the old brain box, but I didn't write it down. So I knew it was coming out in French and possibly German or Spanish, yeah, but I didn't know about an English release officially. That's
some
good.
of the Mario manga is getting translated into English, and like I can get it on my Kindle. I'm trying to see
wow.
if it's Mario Kun or one of the other ones.
Well, okay, like I said, it only launched after Super Mario World. That's an adaptation of that. So whenever
Oh no, yeah, it's Super Mario Kun, or it's Mario Kun, but it's just called Super Mario Manga Adventures in English.
Yeah, that's it. How many are there?
That's a good question.
So there's in volume 2, so pretty early on, they did a kind of retrospective thing of Mario's past adventures, and there's one page that covers Donkey Kong 1981, where Lady appears with fair hair and a big poofy dress, and yeah, there's a little gag in this little mini adaptation where Mario comes to rescue her, but on the way he gets bashed by so many barrels on the face that he's completely unrecognizable, and she prefers to stay with Donkey Kong at the end. And then later on in volume 11, there's more of an adaptation of DK94. Again, it's only one chapter, I think, this one, but Pauline shows up there as Pauline in her redesigned look, and she runs a clothes shop there actually, and she sells Mario some of his like costumes, like the frog suit and all that kind of thing. So that's like a very well-known comic or manga series, but less well-known is the one that ran in Comic Bomb Bomb magazine from KC Deluxe, which is one that I really prefer. I really like the art style of Kazuki Motoyama and the crazy writing of his series. It's just fantastic, and luckily it's all been scanned. It didn't last as long as Super Mario Kun, but it's quite amazing. I like it a lot. So you do see Pauline show up in the Super Mario Kart adaptation as Lady, in a different design than one we've ever seen before. She's kind of wearing a mechanic's jumpsuit because she is a mechanic in this story. She plays that role.
Because yeah, why not?
Why not? Yeah, she's taking care of their carts. She even joins in the race at certain points because it's like a tag teaming double dash type thing where two people are in a cart at once kind of thing. And she also has like Pippi Longstocking pigtails that are kind of rigid behind her head, which is a design element that I've never seen in any other iteration of the character. But yeah, she's definitely called Lady at that point. But of course, that is before the DK94 thing, when, along with her design being standardized, her name being Pauline was really standardized in the Japanese merchandise, I think.
I
think that's a factor, yeah. So, yeah, there is a DK94 adaptation as well. There's a 2-volume or 1.5 volume thing where Pauline's there. In that story, she plays the role of a circus performer. She's an acrobat actually with Junior, and events happen. Donkey Kong breaks out, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's actually interesting. Her role in that story is similar to what, in, in her relationship to Donkey Kong Jr., it's similar to what Peach would be to Bowser Jr. in Mario Sunshine,
Oh yeah.
where I remember this one splash screen where Junior's hugging her and calling her mama, and Donkey Kong is through the story trying to like impress her and get her on his side, and with the intention of them sort of becoming a family on Donkey Kong Island, which is where they end up. And briefly, there's another story at the end of that where they revisit that setting 10 years later, and Pauline has been on the island with Donkey Kong for all
Pauline
that
is Wrinkly
time.
Kong confirmed. But anyway.
Well, she has changed in appearance. She's corpulent, very corpulent. You know, she's just
I
really
guess
round.
Odyssey kind of blows that out of the water. But anyway.
Yeah, well, each of the story arcs from the KC Mario manga, as it's called, have their own little universe that's sort of self-contained from
No,
the
I
other
mean
arcs.
the Pauline is wrinkly theory just gets blown out of the water by Mario
sure,
Odyssey.
yeah. She's a time-traveling duplicate. I don't know.
I roll with it.
But speaking of Odyssey, it's interesting when they revisit this. Donkey Kong Jr. has grown up into Rare's Donkey Kong from the country games.
Yeah, that's
And
just
he
explicitly stated.
Yeah, he explicitly says that, so it's right there in black and white on the page. But Pauline is also there when they meet her right at the end. She pops up as a cameo, and she's gained weight or something, I guess. But her role on the island at that point is sort of an administrative director. So it's interesting that she has a role like that long before Mario Odyssey would make her a mayor. But yeah, she's sort of in charge of building development on the island.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Also from this 90s era of promotional material, I want to bring up one thing that I actually forgot to put in our notes, and that is an episode of the Donkey Kong Country cartoon show that was produced in France.
Go on.
There is an episode where you get a bit of backstory of the rivalry between the Kongs and the Kremlings, and you find out that Cranky and K. Rool used to be friends, and they started this really violent bit of rivalry over something. And over the course of the episode, it comes to light that they were fighting over something. They never explicitly say what the something was, but what triggers them to remember what it was they find this pink parasol.
Yes. Wow.
And yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Do you think K. Rool has anything to do with the Snapjaws from DK Jr.?
Okay. So I want to say yes. I want to say yes very hard.
So do I, mostly because
so
of Yoshi's
here's
Island
the
DS,
thing.
where they look like claptraps, basically.
They do. Which just leads me to believe that evil Mario's mechanical Snapjaws were named after the real life creature. But anyway.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So there's a commonly held, it's not even necessarily a fan theory, it's just sort of observing the evidence, and that is that Prince Froggy is the only boss that doesn't just explode and die once you beat it in Yoshi's Island. And combined with some other things like the Shy Guys and whatnot, it's just sort of people going like, oh, is Prince Froggy just young Wart?
Yes.
In a similar vein, I had kind of hoped there was going to be a Snapjaw boss like that I could just go, oh, look, that's K. Rool.
Oh, I wish.
Getting his magical powers from Kamek.
There's still time. They're still making Yoshi games.
They are still making Yoshi games.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, I definitely think the Kremlings, at the very least, like the claptraps and stuff, are just sort of spiritually the Snapjaws.
Absolutely. So I got two more footnotes about adaptations from this era. There's a gag manga that was printed in some magazine called Otemba Peach Hime. Sorry, my accent really drifted on that one. Otemba Peach Hime.
Is that the one
which
pager?
was yes.
Okay.
That's I think that's translated as Tomboy Peach Princess. This is the one that you basically translated that had Pauline
Yeah.
taking Mario's hair.
Peach's charm lesson. Yeah.
Yes. So Pauline just pops up in one of those gag strips.
Yeah. Oh, here it is. I've got it on my computer right here, and it's Peach talking to Wendy. It looks like Wendy-O.
Yes.
And going like, "Hey, I've got this book of charms. Did you know you can make like a love charm, taking some hair from the person you love, and doing this thing?" And Pauline walks up out of nowhere and goes like, "Oh, hey, you mean like this hair from Mario I've got?" And Peach is just like, "What the heck?" And it just devolves into two of them like having a competition to see who can rip more hair off of Mario's head while he tries to escape.
And that's why he's bald.
And that's the 4 coma.
Yep. And the only other footnote I had was the Valiant Nintendo Comic System comic about the Mario series. Mario at one point mentions his ex-girlfriend at a point when Peach has been acting intimidating to him and saying, "Oh, it reminds me of my ex-girlfriend." So she's still part of the backstory in adaptations like that.
All right.
Oh, and there's the comic. Oh no, we mentioned that already with the movie. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah, so that was the 90s. We've covered the 80s, we've covered the 90s. Now we skip forward to the 2000s, where the sequel to Donkey Kong 94 finally comes out, known as Mario versus Donkey Kong. Pauline's not actually in this at all, but
Yeah.
Pauline comes back in Mario versus Donkey Kong 2, March of the Minis.
Yes, when the series has moved to the DS and also shifted in gameplay style.
Well, kind of shifted in playstyle.
Kind of.
Because, so, in Mario vs. Donkey Kong for the Game Boy Advance, you're playing as Mario and you control him and you platform him around. It's like one screen levels, very similar to Donkey Kong 94. But instead of, like, the goal is to pick up these mini Mario toys throughout the level in addition to just getting through the goal. And then the final level of each world would be the minis are going through on automatic like little lemmings from that series. And you as Mario have to go like flip all the switches and push blocks into place and whatnot for them to get through to the goal. And this determined how many of the mini Marios you had available to use in the following boss fight.
So
And
you would say that Pauline's role in the story there has been superseded by a toy object.
Yep. But there is a second half to the game. There is Plus mode, harkening back to the game's original title, Donkey Kong Plus, when it was just a straight-up remake of Donkey Kong 94, but with GBA graphics. There are pre-rendered graphics, though, in deference to Donkey Kong Country. The Plus mode,
it's an interesting look.
Every level is a Mario has to set up the stage so the minis can get through.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, because most people just stop when they beat the main game and don't do Plus mode. I will admit I was one of those people. I didn't even know Plus mode existed for years. But Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2 just starts with a straight up Lemmings mode, and since it's on the DS, they just have you manipulating the stage with the touchscreen and the stylus instead of platforming
It fits very
Mario
well.
around. It fits very well. I kind of wish they'd go back to Mario platforming around because it was very Super Mario Bros. 2 type of setup, and it's got that enemy stable as well. It's got like Shy Guys and stuff. So it just sort of had
I see
that
what you mean,
feel
because you
to
jump
it.
on things, pick them up, and throw them.
Yeah. It just sort of had that Mario USA feel to it, which is appropriate for this series. But yeah. So it went to the touchscreen stuff. Pauline is reintroduced to the series as Mario's friend, who is
Wink, wink.
friend, who is
Well, yeah, he's
funding.
just friends with his ex now. It's fine.
Yeah, he's friends with his ex, and she's funding his toy business.
Oh, so she's an investor. That's something I wanted to ask you: is what is her role in this game.
She's the one paying for all this, is her
Got it.
role in the game. And DK is just instantly in the general plot of Mario vs. Donkey Kong and Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2 is DK sees advertisements for these little mini Mario toys, instantly falls in love. He loves his gachapon. I feel for him. He runs
He's
to
such
the
a mark.
factory to get his mini Mario, and
Such an
they're
easy
either
mark.
out or Mario's just like, get the fuck out of here. Go, shoo. Mario's an asshole in this series, by the way.
Yes. Well, it's
there's
appropriate
literally
after his role in
Yeah.
in DK Jr. and Circus.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And DK grabs a handful of the things, of the toys, and also Pauline, and takes off. And March of the Minis takes place entirely in the toy factory, which just has different testing environments in it. As we get further into the series, we have lordy, the next one is
So,
Minis March Again for the DSi, which
Yes.
streamlines the gameplay a little bit.
Yeah, it was only released digitally through the DSi workshop.
Digitally through the DSi workshop, streamlines the gameplay a bit of it. Is light on plot, but it's basically the same thing, except at the end it turns out that Pauline and Donkey Kong were actually like testing the toys. Pauline has decided to employ Donkey Kong at the factory, and Mario just assumed he was up to no good and has been ruining all the tests.
Mario,
Yeah.
the enemy.
So the first 3 games in the series all take place within the toy factory. We then these are in 2004, 2006, and 2009. We get to late 2010, the
Yes.
same month that Donkey Kong Country Returns comes out, actually.
Oh,
Mario vs. Donkey Kong Mini Land Mayhem comes out, and I maintain this is the best game in the series.
it's the only one I've played.
Well, previous March of the Minis and Mini March Again had you interacting with stages via nebulous pink blob blocks that you could put in predefined areas that were marked such that, oh, you can put blocks here. And they would act as like platforms or bridges or whatever for the minis. And there were also some switches you could flip and stuff. Miniland Mayhem actually does away with those for the most part and introduces different types of object you can lay out. So you have like conveyor belts or girders or pipes or whatever that you can lay in the stage. Mostly in predefined
trampolines.
areas and trampoline. Like you have to attach girders to like
Anchor points.
like lug nut points, anchor points, and like treadmills have their own anchor points, and pipes can go in specific areas and whatnot. But yeah, and it's much slicker. It's got some nice boss battles for what the game type is. And it's got a new plot of there's this Mario is doing so well with the minis that he's convinced Pauline to open an amusement park themed around these minis. And I maintain that real life is mimicking art because the theme park is coming. But anyway, Donkey Kong sees this, he's hype, he sees that there's a promotion where the first 100 guests get a free, I think it's a free mini Pauline toy. I think this was the game they were introduced in, actually. And he's just like, oh fuck, I need one. Rushes to the theme park. Gets up to the front of the line finally, and Mario's just like, no, we have none for you. And Donkey Kong's like,
he
what
wasn't 101st place. It was all Mario.
Well, okay. So in the beginning, it's set up to look like, sorry, we're out, and Donkey Kong throwing a fit and just runs into the park and grabs Pauline to go with him. And Mario's just chasing them throughout the entire game. But the ending of the game is Mario finally catching up with them and going, fine, whatever, here, take your stupid toy. And it's like, he had one. He was just being an asshole and go, no, Donkey Kong doesn't fucking get one.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And this just gets compounded. It just gets worse. The next game, the next game was actually Minis on the Move, which was the first one for 3DS and was an isometric sort of pipe dream setup where you were laying the track from randomly generated pieces that the minis would follow around the stage, trying to pick up little power stars and stuff. But there was
And notably,
No,
the
go
super
ahead.
title is not Mario versus Donkey Kong. It's Mario and Donkey Kong.
Kong. Yeah, yeah, I like that. It's unity, harmony.
Yeah, does that speak to the plot?
It's light on plot. The series gets really light on plot at this point. Well,
Yeah,
I
that's a
shouldn't say
shame.
that. This game's light on plot. The next one isn't. The next one doesn't fucking have any plot. But yeah, Minis on the Move is really light on plot. You complete it, you get there's some sort of splash screens that have like stills of the characters just sort of playing with the minis in the amusement park. They're still in Miniland. And it's just sort of like a, hey, they're playing in the amusement park. That's about it. It was a new game type. I really wish they would have iterated on this, and they kind of did. It's just that those games are called Captain Toad.
I see. So, what did the ending reveal about Pauline's role in the story?
Nothing in this game. In the next game, though,
Oh, I see.
Mario
Gotcha.
versus Donkey Kong Tipping Stars begins with, once again, Donkey Kong, kidnapping Pauline and running off, and Mario being like, oh, I gotta do something, fucking Donkey Kong, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once you get to the end of the game, it's revealed that it's Mario's birthday, and Pauline has been setting up a surprise party for him, and she knew that all she needed to do to distract him was have Donkey Kong run across his line of sight. She used the fact that Mario is such an asshole to Donkey Kong to just keep him occupied for a few hours while she set up this surprise party.
Wow.
Yeah.
Normally, they seem to be able to play tennis and go karting together.
I know, right?
Perfectly fine.
There's plenty of instances where, like at the end of fucking Color Splash, Bowser gets unpossessed, and he's like, "Oh, Mario, were we scheduled to go kart today? What's
I
going
love
on?" Yeah, Mario's just such a dick to Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong seems to get on well with Bowser, though. In the Skylanders comic, it's the the two of them are just really chummy. It's
They're
great.
basically Han Solo and Chewbacca. In
Yeah,
that comic.
basically. I love
Yeah.
it. I want to see that relationship in the game. Literally just the Han Solo and Chewie relationship with Bowser and Donkey Kong. But yeah, so Pauline knows the way Mario works, and there's sort of a sense of like, yeah, whatever, I'm not dating him anymore. I don't have to put up with this shit if I don't want to.
Yeah, and as we saw in Saturday Supercade, she has a connection with Donkey Kong and an understanding of him
Yeah.
that Mario lacks.
There's one final game in the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series. It drops that super title and moves to Mini Mario and Friends. It has no plot whatsoever. There's no plot to speak of. Pauline's not in it at all.
Yeah, I have played this one to completion, and it's a decent game.
Why?
You're only controlling one Mii at a time.
Okay, I'll give that to you. It's a really good game mechanically. I love the levels. I love the setup. I love that there's an overworld map you're moving around. The utter
and each
complete
character has its own
lack
little
of story
gimmick.
pisses me off.
Yeah, there is no context for it at all.
And well, there's some real world context in that I know some of the people over at NST, and I know that they keep getting less time and budget to work on these things, and their scope keeps getting reduced, and they just don't have the bandwidth to do what they would like with the series. So yeah, and unfortunately, since the major hook of these games was the stage creator, just like Mario and Donkey Kong Minis on the Move sort of got replaced by Captain Toad, the Mario versus Donkey Kong series, starting with the DS or DSi title. I know it was present in at least Miniland Mayhem. I can't remember if it was present in Minis March Again. It was actually
Miniland Mayhem had sharing over the Wi-Fi connection. Yeah,
Donkey Kong 94 and Mario versus Donkey Kong 1 both have dummied out level creator modes where you were supposed to have been able to share levels with your friends via link cable. Like, this was a thing the series was supposed to have. And you can tell Miyamoto kind of likes this. Like, it's back in Wrecking Crew. Wrecking Crew has a stage creation mode like this, and it's very similar in interface and whatnot. And since the main draw of the series at this point, as far as like Nintendo's like one franchise per game genre thing going on, I kind of feel like since Super Mario Maker is a thing now, that's why they pivoted to this will be what we do with amiibos. But that didn't seem to catch on. They seem to keep experimenting with, well, maybe this will be our like amiibo hub game somewhere else. Yeah, I don't think it's going to continue. It'd be perfect for mobile if somebody wanted to do it. Nobody, they're not going there. I don't know.
And we don't even know what NST's up to since then.
Well, no, we do. They handled the 3DS port of Super Mario Maker. They were helping out on Snipper Clips.
Snipper Clips, yeah.
They were on something else that just escapes my memory like a fleeing pigeon. Hold on a second.
So, so just to sum up, the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series, Pauline is in most of them. She's got, those 5 appearances.
Oh, they did Captain Code. They did Treasure Tracker. So, they totally just, Miniland Mayhem, or Mario and Donkey Kong totally just became Treasure Tracker.
So they did the 3DS port, or?
They did the 3DS and Switch version and helped out on the original.
Okay, do you think they designed the new levels?
Yeah, they would have. They would have been the ones designing the new levels for the ports.
Sweet.
Yep.
Oh, that's very nice.
So yeah, totally. No, that theory holds up. They're totally just, that's what they're on now.
Yeah, so Captain Toad is the successor to the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series in a way.
Well, the Mario and Donkey Kong series.
Yeah. Specifically, yes.
Which just kind of vindicates me because there's totally a DK Vine thread where I'm like, this could have been a Mario and Donkey Kong game. But yeah.
So yeah, Pauline's in a lot of those. In the same design that we saw in DK94, although it sort of feels different because she's done in 3D graphics for this series.
Yeah.
Although using the same design that she had back then.
Release 2 through release 6 of the series.
Yes.
And like I said, she gets her gold bracelet, but is otherwise kind of just sort of a CG render of the DK94 model.
And that's kind of the last time we see her in that look, apart from the ancillary material.
When was she showed up, as you said, as a trophy in like Smash Bros. And she was in Puzzle. Blah, 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 I've lost words. She was in Puzzle Swap.
Yeah. The 3DS Street Pass Plaza.
I'm dumb tonight. There was a puzzle called Nintendo Starlets that included her.
Yes, Starlets is the North American name in that localization. Our localization for Europe and Oceania or whatever calls it Nintendo Heroines, which I think is an utter misnomer because of the 5 characters featured, none have ever been playable. But this is a very specific usage of the word heroine that means female lead who gets kidnapped and is powerless for the story. Because what do we have? It's Zelda from Skyward Sword, Zelda from it's Toon Zelda, I think.
Let's see. It's I've got it here. Yeah, it's Toon Zelda, Peach, Pauline,
Peach,
Rosalina, and Rosalina. Skyward Sword Zelda.
Yes. So I guess Peach and Rosalina are sometimes playable-ish, but yeah.
Pauline had been hand-wavingly playable.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, that's correct. But I think it's a little bit disingenuous, the name they gave them, either way.
Yeah.
I looked up what Starlet meant because I wanted to know. Apparently, its original definition was in the Hollywood movie studio factory.
Yeah, basically.
The definition was a young actress who was being set up by the company as a future star. So starlet. It's like she will be a star eventually. A prophecy which has not come true for any of those characters.
I mean, they're well known. They're stars. They're just not.
Okay, they are stars.
They are accessories to their male counterparts, though.
That's my problem with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well.
But yeah, so that brings us up through, what was it, like 2016 or so?
Yeah.
And then, so let me set the scene for you.
Yes.
I'm working at Microsoft in
Tell me a story, Uncle Gibbon.
side office, and we're kind of busy, and I'm in the middle of something, and I know there's a Nintendo Direct that day, and I figure I'll just catch it later. There's likely going to be some new Super Mario Odyssey information, and I'm sort of excited because they've been showing off New Donk City, which speaks to me personally just because it's so obviously Big Ape City. And I'm wondering if, like, oh, maybe there'll be some Donkey Kong references or something. And my pocket starts vibrating. Just a lot. And I'm in the middle of, like, a call with a guy from Dublin, so I can't check my phone at the moment. And so I eventually finished my service call with the employee in Dublin as we compared dreary, overcast and rainy weather between there and Seattle. And I get up to go around the corner to the break area for a hot minute and check my phone, and there's like 11 notes from Twitter and like 15 pings on Discord, and someone's tagged me on Facebook, and just, I'm like, what the fuck? And no one's saying what it is. They're all just, Gibbon, look at this, Gibbon. No one's saying what it is. It's all just screaming my name. So I click on the first link, and it's a video. And it's the video. It's the Jump Up Superstar video. And I think my coworkers could hear me screaming down the hall. I was so excited. So to hasten this story that you already know the ending to, Pauline's fucking in Mario Odyssey. She's a big character in Mario Odyssey. She got a complete, she got a big makeover. She's in, a pantsuit with a nice hat. She's the mayor of New Donk fucking City. All of the citizens have nothing but nice things to say about her. She's got her nice little jazz quartet going on. She sings at the nightclub when she's done with her city hall duties. It's just great. They advertised the heck out of her and New Donk City and all the game's promotional material. It's on the cover. She is canonically singing the theme song to the game. And just, and it's her birthday. The game takes place on her birthday. Yeah, that's one of the little side quests you can do with her as you run around New Donk City collecting her
Really?
handbag and hat and parasol. Is when you get them all back to her, she's like, oh, this is so nice because it's my birthday.
I think Mario forgot.
They don't really say anything like, oh, hey, look, it's Mario. But when things have sort of died down and Bowser's been kicked out of the city and they're tearing down all the posters he put up, she's like, oh, hi, Mario. So, do you remember me? Blah, blah, blah. And some sort of light reminiscing about, the events of yesteryear, which you can read in one of two ways. You can either read it as some nice reminiscing about, like, the general audience probably has never heard of Mario vs. Donkey Kong because I'm like one of 3 people who's ever played that, and the other 2 are my clones. And
yes,
I interviewed to be on the team that makes those games, and even they wanted me to shut up about the game. Yeah, so some nice reminiscing about what was likely the last general audience point of reference for Pauline, which would be Donkey Kong 81 or Donkey Kong 94, which is a remake of Donkey Kong 81. Or, if you subscribe to the everything is canon in this wibbly wobbly continuity, and Mario and Pauline used to be married, the "Hey Mario, remember me?" line just comes off as the queen of snark. hey, look what the cat dragged in. Anyway, no, you haven't read. You forgot my birthday.
You haven't called.
Yeah,
you
no,
haven't
it's great.
wrote.
But yeah, no, she's in the game in a big way. She takes it all in stride. She's mayor now, which is totally me.
But
I
she
did
takes it all
that.
in stride.
Okay, so side note, DK Vine community
She has perfect
used
poise.
to do a yearly character popularity poll, and in the year immediately prior to the announcement that Pauline was going to be Mayor Pauline in Mario Odyssey, I was campaigning for her to win the Hall of Fame, and I did this in the form as a
Hall of Fame
Make
2016.
Pauline Great Again hashtag on Twitter, which hasn't aged well, I'll admit, but it was fucking amazing at the time. Because I just went whole ham on it. I was reposting fan art. I was doing hashtags. Pauline for Hall of Fame,
Sure
Pauline
did.
2016, yada yada yada, the whole thing. And then Nintendo announces that she's mayor, and I'm just like, yes, my campaigning is amazing. I did this. This was me.
Yes. And I think this is why so many people were pinging you, is because of your campaigning for this. Yeah. You became known
Yeah,
as the
that definitely played a
Pauline
part in it.
fanboy number one.
And as a byproduct of that, there's now actually the We Are Pauline little fan community, which used to be consigned to one Tumblr blog, which is now a network of Twitter accounts and personalities in the wake of Mario Odyssey. But without prompting, they were just like, oh, and of course Gibbon is part of this. They just included me on all the tag lists. I'm on the auto tag for the We Are Pauline thing that tags like 11 of us
Lovely.
at a time. My name's just in there. They've consulted me for a few of the videos from the official account and used some of my they used some of my screenshots and stuff from Smash, for instance, when they were putting together the Smash Ultimate video and stuff like that. But yeah, so I kind of got well known in that little circle of the internet during this whole thing. But no, she's important in the game, even outside of the section that takes place in New Donk City. Like later in the game, when all of the representatives and rulers of the kingdom are in the final area, Pauline is also there, of course, as the representative from New Donk, but she also just sort of takes the lead of the group of the representatives and is the de facto one in
Absolutely.
charge.
Like, it seems to me, looking in from the outside, that not only is the New Donk City area and Pauline herself definitely fan favorites, they seem to have been favorites of the development staff and the marketing people at Nintendo too.
Yeah, no, definitely the marketing people. Like the marketing for Mario Odyssey was an actual music video of Jump Up Superstar set in New Donk City with Pauline singing. That was the television spot.
Not to mention the
Like-
E3 booth being made up like New Donk City as well.
Yeah. They also had that. They migrated the booth to PAX, so I
Oh,
got
lovely.
to go through that little New Donk City area mock-up when I played the demo of Odyssey at PAX that year. No, it was so great. It was just sort of everyone. I got a lot of like, oh man, good for you, Gibbons, from people. I don't think DK Girder ever got more site traffic than it did during that period. Yeah, good time. Good time.
good times.
Pauline's a main
And that's
character again.
That's a big reason why we're doing
And-
this episode, really.
Yeah,
But, yeah.
and we know she's going to continue being a main character,
Yes.
not just be a one-off, because they added her to Mario Tennis Aces.
That's right. Odyssey didn't just bring her back to a Mario game. It brought her back to the series as a whole, to Nintendo's whole stable of character, their roster.
Yeah.
back as a primary cast member. And
Yeah. It's great.
it is great.
Mario Tennis Aces in and of itself has a little bit of a storied history. It's very, very likely that it started life as Mario Tennis Ultra Smash
Yes,
on
which
the Wii U.
Was a released game, but
which
it was released in a pretty bare bones state.
Yeah, in retrospect, it was very much a get what you have into a releasable state and put it out because we're discontinuing work on the Wii U.
Yeah, definitely.
You will then get to finish the game on the next console.
Yeah.
And it was put out as Mario Tennis Aces, which is the exact same engine and renders as Ultra Smash.
Yeah,
but just like a million more content.
Yeah, a lot of Wii U games got ported to Switch with more content, but this really is that situation, but
multifold.
Yeah.
Like the other half of the game was included in the Switch.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
I think it's got a
summarize
full
that, so.
story RPG mode in classic Camelot fashion, like they used to do with their tennis and golf games and whatnot. And while Pauline wasn't in the base release, since this started work back on the Wii U, before Mario Odyssey was planned or was still in the planning stages, and before they'd nailed down that Pauline was going to be in, Pauline was added to the game in like the first round of character DLC, and she's got a new little like tennis skirt and visor design, and they gave her a character emblem. So all the characters have their own character emblems. Daisy's got her little daisy. Mario's got the M. Peach has her thing, and yada yada yada. So Pauline now has a character emblem too, and it's a kind of a play on her lipstick. So it's her lipstick, but in the shape of a heart. So it's like a little kissy lips, but it's heart shaped. If that makes any sense whatsoever.
No, yeah. It's very feminine, which fits her character.
That's her character emblem. Yeah. And yeah, that's pretty much present
that's
day.
The present, and hopefully the future. There'll be more to come.
Super present. She was just added to the game in March. She was available to people that went through the tournament mode, and then became available to everyone at the beginning of April.
Yes.
So she's been in the game for maybe 2.5 months now. So that's present day. She doesn't have an amiibo yet. They added her a statue of her that sings when you interact with it to Super Mario Run as well.
Okay.
As part of the Mario Odyssey set.
Great, I missed that. That's good. And yeah, it should be noted that with her sort of relaunch in Mario Odyssey, it's essentially the same design that she's had from 94 through the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series.
Except now it's sequence.
Yeah, it's been touched up. The default mare outfit, like Gibbon said, is a pantsuit, and her singer outfit is the very shiny red dress, which looks fantastic.
Oh, also in the art book, there's some wonderful concept art of her in just like casual streetwear, and I fucking love it.
Yes.
This game was made for me. It's fucking amazing. The game has a ton of other great areas, and a couple of the other worlds are arguably references to other sort of arcade era stuff, and I'm pretty sure we've gone over that in other episodes.
Yeah, I like the jungle overtaken factory kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of reminiscent of like the Game & Watch DK Jr. adaptions. It's all good shit.
It is.
But I just, this is my Mario game. This Mario game was made for me. I 100%ed this game. I just played it every day for hours and hours. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep that week. I just consumed every goddamn percent. It was great. I'm kind of disappointed they haven't come out with like, look, 3 new kingdoms DLC, because I think everyone just sort of expected that to happen.
Yeah.
Although I will have to try out this VR mode. I'll have to try out this VR mode.
Yeah, give it a go.
Figure out how I can play this VR mode. I think I read that you don't need the VR stuff to play the mode. It's just made to be enhanced by doing it through the Labo VR kit.
Well, maybe you can get to that by the time we record the next episode.
Maybe. Oh, as part of the spirits conceit in Smash Ultimate,
That's right.
we kind of mentioned that Pauline shows up a little bit in both the Donkey Kong and Lady thing, but also in the she has her own Pauline spirit.
Yes.
That is representative of her Mario Odyssey look.
Yes.
And it is one of the hardest battles in the game.
Yeah, so this is a fight with a Peach in a red dress who keeps away from you. Is this it?
Mario in his Odyssey outfit and a giant Donkey Kong that just beat the ever-loving stuffing out of you. And you're on a time limit, and you have to kill Pauline specifically.
So in the
to win
fiction
the
of
fight.
Smash Ultimate, Pauline was present. She was murdered by whatever the big bad's name was. She came back as a
Galeen.
ghost and then possessed a clone of Peach, and then you have to fight her. So that's
the
her.
opening of story mode involves Galim destroying the universe,
Yes.
And then stuffing the ghosts of everyone who managed to have strong enough presence of will to survive as a ghost into copies of the main Smash roster that has been churning out of some weird doll factory, basically.
Yeah, I love that. There's a ton of obscure characters in there as spirits, but within the fiction of the game, that means they are canonically present. They died, and now they're ghosts who have possessed something else, and you fight them. So they have a presence and a role in the game story to some extent.
So, yeah, Pauline's there.
So we've covered the official history of Pauline, but we've got a few footnotes here. Should we go through them?
Yeah.
So we do have a section on ROM hacks here and fan games. So
Yeah.
Pauline hasn't had too many playable appearances in the whole Mario series, but there have been a few efforts by fans to get her in there as the main character. So the most famous one has to be Donkey Kong Pauline Edition by Mike Micker, who, for his daughter, who was kind of wondering, why can't I play as the girl, basically, when they were checking out Donkey Kong, he has taken the Donkey Kong Original Edition ROM, which is a later release by Nintendo to add in stuff to the NES version of Donkey Kong that was missing, that was in the arcade port but cut out for the NES home port. He's taken that and he's swapped out all the sprites, replaced Mario with Pauline and vice versa, and you can play as her trying to rescue Mario. So yeah, that's really cool, and it's not too hard to get that working.
No.
I found an equivalent sort of patch hack for the arcade version, which was made by Clay Cowgill, that used similar sprites, and you just drop these files into your zip file of the arcade ROM, and you can run it in MAME, and it's the same thing to get Pauline playable. That patch also actually replaces the bonus items, swaps out the bag, the parasol, and the hat for Mario's carpenter tools. So it's another nice little feature. I noticed in connection with that people had made custom marquees for cabinets that had artwork with Pauline as the hero role.
Yeah.
For use on recreation. What do you call it? Like
on recreation cabinets.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
I'm not sure how I feel about them. Like, oh, it's Pauline, so we should make all the art like highlighted in pink and purple.
But, yeah, that's a good point.
But
not necessary.
Whatever.
And in connection with that, I know you on the site. You've got sections for stuff like Donkey Kong Remix. I've seen videos of Pauline playable in Donkey Kong Remix. I'm not really sure how to do that.
In theory, you should be able to just drop the same arcade patch in
Oh,
there.
the same files that Clay Cowgill made. If you drop them into Donkey Kong Remix, it should work.
It should work, yeah.
Okay, sure. I haven't tried it, but okay, cool.
Yeah. Um, less famous, but really fun is this Super Mario Land graphics hack,
mm,
and a further patch for that implements Pauline instead of Mario.
mm.
And it's instead of Mario encountering a fake Daisy at the end of each level, it's Pauline encountering a fake Tatanga at the end of each level. Going like, oh, I've got you now, and it's, oh no, it was a fake Tatanga. And then at the end, they like kiss and get in a rocket and fly off together to live happily ever after or something. Um, yeah. It's really nice though. The overall graphics hack is really nice. It's sort of in the vein of like the MDB Troid overhaul for Metroid or other, or that Donkey Kong sprite update we talked about a little while
Yes.
ago in another podcast. It updates the graphics of Super Mario Land 1
All the
to be
graphics.
just kind of more, well, not more contemporary, but just, bring, a couple decades worth of knowledge of how to do stuff with a limited sprite set to make art better
More detailed.
into
Yeah.
the fold and sort of art tricks. And
It
just
also
makes it look really good.
Mm.
And then that is then furthered by swapping in Pauline for Mario
Yeah.
and having like her hat be like the mushroom,
mushroom.
power up, and having like her handbag there and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
the handbag is the flower, and I think the parasol is the invincibility star, from memory.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really good.
that sounds right.
It looks amazing, and yeah, just having Pauline as the star of this big new adventure. I mean, Donkey Kong's good, but Super Mario Land is obviously a lot bigger in scope.
Man, someone a while ago had like a question on Discord that was like, oh, if you could put Pauline in as a playable character in like the next 3D world or whatever, what would her character gimmick would be? And I blanked on actually typing this into chat, but I'd be like, give her the parasol power up from Kirby, just verbatim.
Oh yeah, well that'd be basically like Super Princess Peach.
Kinda, I guess. You could float a little bit with the parasol, hold it in front of you,
Yep.
do the thing where you hold it above you while you're running.
Yeah, Peach does
to,
all
like
that.
block downward projectile. Okay, okay.
It's a really good game.
I own it. I played through it once. I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah, that's okay. By the way, the Mario Land graphics hack was by Arne Nicholas Janssen and can be found at androidarts.com.
Yeah.
And the other hack that I found was using so it was a hack of Super Mario Brothers 1 on the NES, and
Yes.
it actually replaced Mario sprites with the Pauline sprites that exist in Pinball that we talked about earlier. And
Yeah.
they match up pretty well for all the animations that were necessary. The only problem is I don't think that patch is publicly available. I saw the guy playing it, Sion this is, playing it on YouTube, but
Yeah,
there
I've
wasn't
seen the
any
same YouTube video.
there wasn't any link to download it yourself. But it works visually.
Yeah.
So those were the ROM hacks we could find. There are a couple of fan games, nothing too substantial. One that I played on stream a little while ago, along with a couple of Kiwi games, was called Pauline's Way, which uses the Pauline sprite from the Atari 2600 port of Donkey Kong and gives her a new adventure with 5 levels. It's pretty short. It's in a retro style. It was made for the Retro Remakes 2008 competition by Harold Thiessen. Sorry. It's an interesting little thing. Pauline has a shotgun, and her objective is to stomp on rats that are running around the levels and not get shot by laser turrets. And there are zombies later on that you shoot with a shotgun. So that was an interesting little thing. And apart from Pauline's Way, the only other fan game I could find that cast Pauline as a protagonist was a Scratch project called Pauline by someone called Princess Peach 213. Now, Scratch is like a little game creation tool you can use on the browser. It is a sprite hack of an existing game called Sand by Spacer, with two A's. And this is something that Scratch allows you to do, is take someone's creation and then remix it and change things up about it. So Princess Peach 213 has swapped out the character sprite, the backgrounds, and the music. Unfortunately, in the process, the game became completely broken and unplayable, and the physics just do not work. The mechanics don't work. You get stuck at a certain point because you can't jump. If you jump, you die, but you can go down, and you can then pass through.
That totally sounds like the name of a Kaizo hack. If you jump, you die.
It's not like that. It's just that it's not coded properly or something. Anyway, it's too bad. It had a little one-line story that was Mayor Pauline is on her way to whatever thing. But yeah, that's all I could find. But is Pauline elsewhere? Could she possibly be hiding in plain sight as somebody else?
Yes. So I did not make this up.
Really?
I was not the first person to come up with this. Yes, really. There is a fanon wiki called like Some Guy's Project. That's literally the name of the fanon wiki. And they, I think, did the major thing of this. And it's just this weird fanon rambling thing that after the events of Some Ordinary Gamers Wiki is the title of the wiki.
Okay.
And they have a really long rambling page that's mostly in prose form, talking about how Pauline had sort of a breakdown in the late 80s, which is why she stopped showing up, except she did because she'd just gone bad and had resurfaced as Captain Syrup in the Wario Land series.
Nice.
And I can kind of see it. Like, if you look at Captain Syrup, yeah, her hair's redder, but she's wearing the same sort of, like, neck strap ensemble, except she's got breeches on instead of just a full dress.
That's
but
more
she's
practical.
got sort of the same type of earrings and the same fashion sense. She's got the same eyeshadow and lipstick. And yeah, she's just sort of got that, like, evil Pauline design going on. This kind of caught some traction on the internet. There's a couple Game FAQs threads about it. I tweeted about it. So the We Are Pauline blog on Tumblr independently made posts about it. I wasn't really involved with them at the time. Like, this popped up in a couple different circles around the internet, and is sort of a low key, like, oh man, was Pauline just Captain Syrup? And it's like, yeah.
I like it. It's a very fun thing to think about. But not to put you on the spot, but is this officially DK Gerda fanon?
You know what? Honestly, I haven't decided.
Okay, we'll put that off a bit then.
When did Wario Land Shake It come out? I want to say 2010, but that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, it was around then. It was pretty
2008.
late. Okay.
2008. So if we look at our timeline of appearances here,
that's kind of between some Mario vs. Donkey Kong games.
It is kind of between some Mario vs. Donkey Kong games.
Time traveling
well, she
duplicate,
obviously
easy.
Well, if it's between some Mario vs. Donkey Kong games, it doesn't really present much of a thing. It would have been between March of the Minis and Minis March Again. It's whatever. She showed up after Captain Syrup showed up after a long absence. She was the primary villain character, but not end boss of Wario Land 1 and 2.
Yeah. And
then showed up years and years later in Wario Land Shake It.
AKA Shake Dimension.
Yeah. And
that's about it.
She basically showed up in 1994, shortly after DK94, and then was in Wario Land 2, which was a year or so later.
Yeah, it's this, like, have we ever seen them in the same room? But they were kind of in games that were released in the same year, which is kind of the same thing.
Well, she was in the same year as DK94, but later. And remember, DK94 is a remake of a thing that's came
true.
out in 1981. And then she wasn't in any of the Game & Watch titles, so So 1994, 1998, and then 2008 for Captain Syrup, and that's all she's shown up in. And then she had a spirit in Smash Ultimate because everybody had spirits in Smash Ultimate. Where she's Bayonetta. That is Bayonetta with a giant grayscale King Dedetta on the pirate ship stage. That's amazing.
Representing the genie.
Yeah, that's pretty great actually.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So that's just some fanon.
Yeah, that's a good way to maybe breathe some life into a character that is kind of forgotten.
I mean, it only really gives her 3 more games.
No, but it gives Captain Syrup a new identity, sort of.
It does give Captain Syrup a new identity and kind of tells us what Pauline does when she's not, winning at politics and where she got all that money to fund Mario's fucking toy factory.
Exactly.
And theme park aspirations.
Not just an heiress. She just stole some treasure from Spanish galleons.
Yep. And from Wario, for that.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. That's the plot, isn't it?
Yeah. On that note,
yes,
she's had a lot of occupations.
Indeed. So that was our brief history of Pauline, or not so brief. Here we're going to do a little summary.
It was only 2 hours. It's fine.
Gosh, we got to make these things shorter.
Hey, you know what? The last conversation was like 5 hours, and he cut it down to 3 in the final edit.
Oh,
so
wow.
we're starting at like what's going to end up being 2 and change.
And we don't do much editing
and
as
do
him, though.
no editing. So
yeah. So just to summarize all the things we've been through, I want to talk about all the various roles that Pauline has had over the years. You might only think of her as having a set role as a damsel in distress, but these are all the things that she has been and done. She was a singer / performer, as seen in The Coloring Book and in Super Mario Odyssey. Do you want to trade off on these?
She was a nightclub owner, as seen in the second Coloring Book, where she also sang at. But
she was the pizza deliverer in the LP.
She was a circus employee / owner or something. She was an employee of the circus in the Saturday Supercade.
She was a mechanic in Kazuki Motoyama's Super Mario Kart manga.
She was an acrobat in another manga.
And a zookeeper in the follow-up manga.
Yeah. She was the president of development.
Yeah. The kanji for that was Kaihatsu Onna Shacho, which means development woman president. She says as part of that she's going to arrange for a villa to be built on this site.
Of course she's going to put a villa for DK Island in the another manga.
Yeah, in that series.
For that DK 94 / country bridging arc.
She operated a clothing store in Volume 11 of Super Mario Kun.
She was a tanning salon employee in the Super Mario Brothers movie.
She was a toy tester in Mario vs. Donkey Kong 3. Sorry?
/ investor.
Yes. Toy testing was something she was doing that day, but she also, helped fund the whole initiative. Yes.
Yeah, she was part owner / operator of the toy factory, as well as part owner and operator of Miniland amusement park in latter Mario vs. Donkey Kong games.
And she was, of course,
Mayor Pauline.
Yes, in Odyssey.
In Super Mario.
Mayor of New Donk City and de facto ruling monarch of the Metro Kingdom.
The Metro Kingdom, yep. And has added tennis player recently
to the list.
To her other sporting possibility of golf player from way back in the day.
Oh, I forgot to write that. I'm sorry. Yes, she's definitely a golfer.
It's fine. A sport enthusiast.
Yes, even this list is missing things, but it's quite an impressive CV all told. Yeah.
She's done a lot of stuff. She's a great woman. Had a very storied history.
Great character.
Hopefully, the current trend does not follow the pattern of a brief burst of activity in the mid years of the decade before dying into obscurity once again.
And then 9 years of nothing.
And
Well.
she returns to her torpor coffin and awakens from the darkness in 10 years. We must summon the Belmonts and wait. No, we've gone into another series now.
So you're adding something else to this list of roles. Head vampire.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's all good. I love it. This character's great.
Yes.
She's kind of become the de facto face character of DK Girder, just because like Donkey Kong is pretty well known elsewhere, and their other sites have sort of got him as the mascot figure, and ditto for Mario.
Exactly.
And the only other, like, Stanley is nebulous. if you accept that Stanley and Stan Ottershaw are the same character, Stanley's still around, but he's not really the face of gory detail at the moment. That would be Rusty Pup, which kind of leaves the only other major recurring arcade era character to be Pauline. So
yeah, she really works as the symbol, the emblem of that whole era, which is what we cover on DK Girder.
The mayor of New Donk, which is a love letter to the arcade games, in addition to just kind of Donkey Kong in general, with the street names and shops named after various Donkey Kong Country things. But there's all the arcade graffiti around. There's specific reference made to the events of Donkey Kong 81. There's that whole festival that has you go through the 8-bit representation of Donkey Kong Arcade. And just everything about that area is just sort of a love letter to Mario's origins in Donkey Kong 81, including the presence of Pauline. So yeah, she's just kind of become the face of the arcade era in general.
And thus the face of DK Girder. So yeah, we love
and
Pauline.
It's great.
We'll continue
Love
loving
it.
her.
Yep. I can't wait to see what they put her in next.
Here we go, off the rails. Don't you know it's time to raise our sails? It's freedom like you never knew. Don't need bags or a pass. Say the word, I'll be there in a flash. You could say my hat is off to you. Oh, we can zoom all the way to the moon. Round this great wide wacky world. Jump with me, grab coins with me, oh yeah. It's time to jump up in the air. Jump up, don't be scared. Jump up and your cares will soar away. And if the dark clouds start to swirl, don't fear and shed a tear, 'cause I'll be your one-up girl. So let's all jump up super high, high up in the sky. It's no power up like dancing. You know that you're my superstar. No one else can take me this far. I'm flipping the switch. Get ready for this. So let's do the Odyssey. Odyssey, yes, see. 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 Odyssey, Odyssey. Spin the wheel, take a chance. Every journey starts a new romance. A new world's calling out to you. Take a turn off the path. Find a new addition to the cast. You know that any captain needs a crew. Take it in stride as you move side to side. They're just different points of view. Jump with me, grab coins with me, oh yeah. Come on and jump up in the air. Jump without a care. Jump up 'cause you know that I'll be there. And if you find you're short on joy, don't fret, just don't forget that you're still a one-up boy. So go on, straighten up your cap. Let your toes begin to tap. This rhythm